Here in the United States, we already have many problems. And these problems are only compounding because this is an election year. But besides all of that, it was just announced that we need to prepare for a war. And by preparing for a war, we also have to prepare for nationwide cuts in 2024. I want to explain where all this is coming from, why experts are now concerned with the United States moving forward, and what you should expect this year. So, I'm going to explain that in just a moment, so make sure you watch this entire video. All I ask is one thing, it takes 2 seconds. Go ahead and hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So one of the concerns that the United States is facing at this time is, are we getting closer and closer to a war? Well, according to the top Houthi leader, he says yes, that the Houthis are at war with the United States. Now, one thing I want to just be clear on. President Biden and the United States say we are not at war with the Houthis. Now, Biden admits strikes are not halting attacks, but we are not at war. So the Houthis continue to strike the United States continues to strike the Houthis, but we say we're not at war. Here's the problem. Experts believe we are very close to a war. We are close to a war with the Houthis, with Hezbollah, with Hamas, with Iran. Right? We are close to a war with many different groups. Now, here's what you need to know. This is a concern because if we go into a war, according to multiple reports, we do not have the ability to pay for that war. So, this is why they say we need to prepare for nationwide cuts in 2024. One thing I can tell you, the reason why we're expecting cuts is because Congress at this point cannot agree to the fiscal year spending for 2024. All we keep doing is we keep on passing a stopgap bill, which just happened. Congress passed a bill in the Senate and the House, sent it to President Biden. This is going to get signed, no big deal, and we are going to extend our funding from today, which is January 19th, it will go all the way till March 1st. That's the good news. The bad news is President Biden is pretty much stuck in his ways. His back's against the wall, can't do much. Okay? Because of these statements that he's made, because of things that have happened, the United States is stuck. We cannot fund a war. We can't raise taxes, right? We can't borrow money and pay for a war. So experts believe the only way that a war happens, and this is probably why the Biden administration says we are not in a war, is because if we are in a war, the outlook from the American people, right? This drops. His ability to run the country, well, those numbers drop. Again, in an election year, these are not good. But the other thing, and this is why some say they believe the Biden administration keeps on telling us they do not want to expand this war. We are not in a war, right? They do not look to enter into a war, is simply because we do not have the funding to pay for a war. Okay? Think about it. Can't raise taxes, can't borrow money. Selling war bonds probably isn't going to happen, right? But all these things are going against us. Now, experts say that if the United States does enter into a war, then nationwide cuts will be a must. These are things that can't happen. Currently, federal agencies are saying that right now, with their current level of funding, they do not have enough money to just sustain their operation as it is, because they had to pay federal employees more money. Remember, it was like a month ago, a couple weeks ago, President Biden signed an executive order the very last week of 2023 and saying that federal employees would get a 5.2% raise. 5.2%. The federal budget isn't going to increase by 5.2%. That's the concern. So now these agencies have to go into their systems, go into their books and figure out how can we pay employees 5.2% more without seeing an increase in funding. The only way is we have to cut other expenses. Well, that's kind of what we're going to get. Now, here's one thing I want to show you. I thought this was interesting. It's an article from Bloomberg. It says U.S. presses ahead with the least bad option in confronting the Houthis. Now, this is what has been going on for the past year or so. Not just with the Houthis, because that's more recent. Not with Hamas, because again, that's more recent. Not with Hezbollah, because that is very recent. But with people like, Russia, China. The United States is going with their least bad options. How great is that? How comforting is that the country is going with their least bad option? Not their best option, their least bad. Because all options at this point regarding the Houthis are all bad. So they're going to go with their least bad option. Yeah, thought that was interesting. But with that said, these least bad options, all that continues to happen is we continue to get hit. Right? Houthis fire missiles at another U.S.-owned ship in the Red Sea. This is all that happens. Right? We just keep going back and forth. But here's the interesting thing. This is an article from Business Insider. It says the U.S. has moved from shooting Houthi threats out of the sky to blowing them up before they even get off the ground. This is what Pentagon officials told President Biden early on. Told Lloyd Austin that the best option is to eliminate the threat before it ever gets into the air. It's the best option. Well, again, back then, they went with the least bad option. They didn't go with the most effective. They went with the least bad option. And this is currently where we're at. So, what does this mean moving forward? Well, everybody right now keeps on saying that the United States is very close to a war. We are very close. The only difference is when an official says we are now at war. The Houthis, their leader has already said they're at war with the United States. Here's the concern. One group says they're at war, so they will continue to attack like they're at war. The other group, which is the United States, which is us, says no, we are not at war, so they're going to play defense. Guess what? Experts believe that the U.S. could be hit, both on U.S. soil and abroad, simply because we are playing defense against a group that says they are at war. So, this was just announced earlier on today. Just wanted to share this with you because, again, this is concerning. This is a major threat to us here in the United States and to U.S. troops abroad. But the biggest concern is if we do enter into a war, how is that going to be paid for? And if it's not going to be paid for, we don't see this really working out, well, the United States could simply try and play defense. Guess what happens then? Russia will try to attack Ukraine even more because the U.S. isn't going to jump in as we are just playing defense against these Iranian proxies. The Iranian proxies they're not a threat when you compare them against Russia or you compare them against China, which is another issue. If Russia goes and starts to invade and attack Ukraine even more, that just shows China that the United States isn't prepared to step in and stop Russia. So how would the United States step in and stop China from overtaking Taiwan? It's kind of where we're at this point, and this is why many say we need to prepare for a war, but also prepare for nationwide cuts in 2024, as this is the only way we can move forward. So, we'll see what happens moving forward. That is what we know as of right now. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.